Hello, everyone, and good morning. Oh, the sun is very bright today. It's so bright that I'm having trouble seeing my screen in the sunshine. Well, boy, we've got a lot to do today. Um, yeah, I've been going slightly slower through these slides than I would like to be. However, I'm confident that today, we should be able to make it to the end of our material. So, with that said, we should probably dive right into things. Let's see, slideshow. Here we go. So, we were talking about theories of justification. And we're considering today one of the main theories, or continuing our discussion today, one of the main theories, and that is foundationalism. And foundationalism seeks some set of foundational beliefs that are sort of, I guess, self-justified, we could say, upon which we can build up other beliefs. And of course, our non-foundational beliefs, the idea is that they are justified ultimately by the self-justified foundational beliefs. That's the long and short of foundationalism. Then, of course, once we finish our discussion of foundationalism, we're going to move on to our discussion of coherence theory. Coherence theory is fun. Coherence theory says that all of our beliefs kind of hang together like a web, like a spider web, or fit together like the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. So there are no foundational beliefs. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. So, what kinds of foundationalism are there? Well, there's strong foundationalism, which we might also call Cartesian foundationalism or infallible foundationalism. And on this view, our basic beliefs, our foundational beliefs that are supposed to be, I suppose, self-evident or self-justified, excuse me, these beliefs cannot be mistaken on strong foundationalism. And that's because on the strong Cartesian foundationalism, justification is only transmitted deductively. So it's only transmitted through deductive inference. And deductive inference, or a deductive argument, that's a truth-preserving argument. So remember, if an argument is truth-preserving, like a deductive argument, that means that if the premises are true, and you don't break any of the rules, right? You reason properly, your conclusion is guaranteed to be true. Your conclusion will necessarily follow from the premises. So similarly, on Cartesian foundationalism, if your basic beliefs are infallible, if they're true, if you cannot be, if it's impossible for them to be wrong, then the other beliefs you form from reasoning about your basic beliefs also must be true. And this is a pretty strong position. This is why we call it strong foundationalism. So if we have a belief about which it's possible for us to be mistaken, then that cannot count as a basic belief on Cartesian foundationalism. So what are basic beliefs on Cartesian foundationalism? Well, they might include things like introspective beliefs, so beliefs about the nature of our own mental states. For example, if I believe that I am hungry, right? I perceive that my stomach is rumbling, and I sort of introspect, and I perceive that, and I form the belief on that basis that I am hungry. Well, it's impossible for me to be mistaken about that. Some of you might say, well, hang on, what if I'm in the Matrix or something, right? What if I'm dreaming, or what if I'm being manipulated by some evil genius? Yes, but remember, Descartes has found his foundational belief, the cogito, the I think, therefore I am. And this is the belief that it's impossible for him to be wrong about. He builds up all his other beliefs from there, like his beliefs about the nature of the mind, the body, the external world, God, etc. This isn't to say that we cannot be mistaken about um, certain properties in the world, um, but we can't be mistaken about how those properties appear to us. I think the example in the book is that of a dress. You know, you could be mistaken about the color of a dress. It's not green, it's chartreuse, right? But you can't be mistaken about how the color seems to you. Um, most people aren't this strong. Um, Most people are actually nowadays advocates of what we would call modest foundationalism. So, modest foundationalism, as I've put here on the top, says that a basic belief can be justified even if subsequent evidence might undermine its justification. So, remember, this is fallibilism. And fallibilism says that our beliefs can still count as knowledge, even if there are some defeaters out there that could potentially cause us to change our beliefs. Um, so we don't have to be, our basic beliefs don't have to be infallible. They could turn out to be wrong, but the other beliefs we form on the basis of holding those fallibly justified basic beliefs, those other beliefs are still justified. So, another important thing is that on modest foundationalism, we don't limit ourselves to justification being transmitted through deductive inference. It can also be justified through inductive inference. So that's enumerative induction and abduction. Okay, let's take stock of where we are. Does anyone have any questions about either strong foundationalism or modest foundationalism so far? Is everybody clear on these differences between the two positions? Fair enough. I mean, you've just got to keep in mind that on strong foundationalism, your beliefs have to be your basic beliefs have to be pretty much perfect. Um, and the justification of subsequent beliefs that you form um, has to be reached via deduction. So, like Chloe says, yeah, modest foundationalism is less extreme than that, if you like. We could try and flesh it out with an example. Well, oh, shush, Tula. So on strong foundationalism, on Cartesian foundationalism, if we take our basic belief to be something like I am, I exist every time I think or utter that proposition, right? So even if there's some evil genius deceiving me about everything, it's impossible for me to be mistaken about my existence. I must exist if there's somebody deceiving me. So that is my basic belief if I'm a Cartesian foundationalist. So I might form another belief on the basis of that basic belief. I might then reason, as Descartes did, that my mind is better known than my body because I sort of have or I sort of have a direct introspective access to my own mind, but I can be mistaken about my body because I see my body, I feel my body via perception, and we've seen through the dream argument that perception um, doesn't represent the world the way it really is. So I can deductively move from I am, I exist to my mind is better known than my body. And that would be an acceptable move on Cartesian foundationalism. Now, on modest foundationalism, I could be wrong about my basic belief. I am, I exist. Well, what if the self is an illusion, like the Buddhists say? Okay, that's a possibility. So maybe my basic belief is only fallibly justified. I could be wrong about the whole I am, I exist thing, but I'm still justified in believing that the mind is better known than the body. For example, right? Yeah, Shania, I'd say that's the main one. That's the bedrock that Descartes establishes. I think that's really, yeah, ultimately, I think that is the only basic belief. So Amy, strong foundationalists do think that introspective beliefs can be basic, and modest foundationalists would agree, I think. They would just say that they would just take a fallibilist approach. You might be wrong about your introspective beliefs, but a strong foundationalist might say that you can't be wrong about your introspective beliefs. In strong foundationalism, why are the beliefs not just knowledge? Well, they're knowledge if they are true and if they're infallibly justified, right? So not all of your beliefs might count as knowledge, as we've seen, as we've made our way through the material. We have lots of beliefs, and not all of them are going to be um, true and well justified. But those that on strong foundationalism are true and infallibly justified, those ones count as knowledge. So what else could count as a basic belief? Yeah, Chloe, I wouldn't say they assume everything could be wrong, but they allow for the possibility. Modest foundationalism, we could say overall, is not quite as certain as strong foundationalism is. So, if we're going to be modest foundationalists, what kind of beliefs could serve as our basic beliefs? Lots. Introspective beliefs, of course, but also perceptual beliefs, right? Beliefs we form on the basis of what we perceive. Um, Memory beliefs, so beliefs about things that we recollect. And beliefs that we arrive at using a priori reasoning, as well as a posteriori reasoning. Because remember, justification can be transmitted via both of these, right? Although I suppose that means that your basic beliefs are going to tend to be uh, these kinds of things, your a priori beliefs, perceptual beliefs, etc. Audi, for example, believes that there are some non-belief impressions, we could say, that might serve as the basis for basic beliefs. So, like sense impressions. So, Leah asks, foundationalism is pretty much how we justify our beliefs. Like a basic belief could be seeing a cat, and it would be considered foundationalism because I could back up my belief from my senses because I can see that it is a cat, and I don't need more justification because seeing is enough. Yeah, sort of like it's your perception there that would count as a basic belief. So you're having a perceptual belief. Um, you see the cat, you form the belief that there is a cat. And so you're justified in believing that there is a cat there, right? Although, as I was saying, Audi might characterize it a bit differently. He might say that you have a sort of what we would call a non-doxastic state. So that's doxa from the Greek for belief or opinion. Um, so a sensation or a perception would be a non-doxastic state. So you have the sensation that there is a cat on the mat. Um, and then you form on that basis the belief that, oh, the cat's over there on the mat, right? Um, yeah, Shania. I would say treat this as an example of modest foundationalism because we could be mistaken, right? You might have an impression of a cat, but you might be misperceiving things. It might not be a cat. It could be like a pile of clothes, that like a cat-shaped pile of clothes, for example. And perhaps the viewing conditions are not optimal, so you mistake it for your cat, right? But the idea is that these basic beliefs depend on, for their justification, other things that are not beliefs, like your sense impressions, perceptions, and so forth. And this way, our basic beliefs are justified without depending on other beliefs. Just to reiterate, a perceptual belief like the cat is on the mat might count as a basic belief, but the perception itself doesn't, right? It's just supported by this non-doxastic perception. And that supports the basic belief we form on that basis. Yeah, I mean, fair enough, Kaya. Like we're using kind of toy examples here, but often you're right. We're not just dealing with one sense, right? If I see a cat-shaped object and I hear purring, um, then um, that's good. Now I have two, I guess, yeah, two non-doxastic states, two sort of modes of perception that are representing a cat, and so then I form the belief, the perceptual belief that there is a cat. Okay, potential concern. These things that we've been talking about, these non-doxastic states, can justify basic beliefs, but they are not themselves beliefs. And since they're not themselves beliefs, they don't require justification. Now, here's the problem. If these other mental states, like our perceptions, are supposed to play this important epistemic role by justifying our basic beliefs, we also need to be sure that our perceptions are epistemically credible. And some of you, I think, have already anticipated this worry, right? You're worried, like, well, what if our senses deceive us, for example? Um, yeah, what happens? First of all, where do our perceptions, for example, even get their epistemic credibility from? And what happens if we are mistaken in what we perceive? What if we misperceive something? I mean, we succumb to perceptual illusions all the time, right? So what do we do? We could search for their epistemic credibility, the epistemic credibility of these non-doxastic states, but that might reveal another regress. Like this perception is epistemically credible because of other perceptions I have had, right? I can be reasonably sure that my perception is of a cat because it's quite similar to all the other perceptions of my cat that I've had previously. But that's just a regress. We're just going on and on forever. And that's one of the things you'll remember we were trying to avoid in the first place with foundationalism, right? So there's a worry of an infinite regress. Whoa. And also, on the other hand, if my impressions, beliefs, etc., are not epistemically credible, well, then they can't justify my basic beliefs, can they? Now, a lot of foundationalists would say, hang on, hang on. ultimately, this is really just the nature of coming to have beliefs. When everything is working properly, all things being equal, impressions on our sensory system produce sensations, and these sensations lead to basic perceptual beliefs. And it's by virtue of interactions like these that our beliefs turn out to be true. Usually, usually, not always. And I'm going to show you an example now. It's a little apropos of Crumley's example about um, not being mistaken about the color of the dress. Um, is the regress argument trying to avoid the rationalist versus empiricist argument for what is knowledge? Well, the regress. Uh, I think what you're asking is actually, I'm not sure what you're asking, Amy. The regress is a problem we have to deal with. It's not about avoiding taking a rationalist or an empiricist approach. Um, Neither the strong foundationalists, which are certainly more rationalist, right? The Cartesian foundationalism is more deductive, and it's I would say I would characterize it as the rationalist one. I mean, they're trying to avoid a regress by saying that there are these basic beliefs that have to be infallible. And the modest foundationalists are allowing for a little bit of empiricism in there, a little bit of knowledge from sense experience. But we still want to avoid the regress. So I would say that rationalists and empiricists are both trying to avoid this regress. Now, okay, so um, experiences aren't beliefs, but you can have beliefs about experiences because beliefs are mental representations of the world. They have content. So I could have a belief about a certain experience. But also when I'm having experiences, I'm forming beliefs, right? So what I mean by experience here is not like a trip to Niagara Falls or something, right? Like I went there and had a nice vacation. It was a lovely experience. What I mean rather is that something happens to us that affects our sensory system. So what I mean is sense experience. Like you show a certain wavelength of light to me and I perceive the color red, right? Like imagine you're driving and you're looking up at the traffic light and it changes from green to amber to red. And so that those red those particular wavelengths of light reach your retina and go to the visual cortex and you have a subjective experience of the color red, which causes you to take your foot off the gas and press the brake to stop for the traffic light. Um, so the seeing the red is an experience, and your belief that you should stop at the red light is the belief. Does that clarify it? Excellent. Yeah, like I said, the more we talk about this, the more it becomes clear. I think it'll really become clear with this next example. Now, recall that Crumley says at some point in this chapter, you could not be mistaken about the color of a dress, for example. I actually added the clarification. Well, you could be mistaken about the color of a dress. What you could not be mistaken about is your impression of the color of the dress, your experience of the color of the dress. Um, yeah, yeah. A regress like goes backwards, on and on and on, right? And we don't want a regress. Okay, so dresses. Can we really um be mistaken about the colors of articles of clothing like dresses? Well, maybe some of you will be familiar with this. Everybody take a look at this dress. Um, and tell me what color it is. What do we see? I want to hear from the chat, and I want everybody else to look at the chat and see what people are saying. Ugly. So some of you see blue and black, black and blue. Some of you see white and gold. Oh, a few of you sees red. And Alicia says you guys are nuts. Chloe, you see both. Wow. Jeremiah, brown, really? Yeah, that's right. I mean, the actual dress is black and blue, but a lot of people perceived it as white and gold. Light blue and pale gold. Interesting. Nicholas, I'm sorry. Oh, I'll have to try that, Joey, if I turn away. It's still golden. It's kind of blue and gold in my in my periphery of my vision. Yeah, it's quite cool, right? Okay, so um, yeah, it depends on the white balance. Yeah. So, but it also seems to depend on our own perceptual systems. Now, here's what's going on, okay? The dress really is black and blue in real life, although I've never perceived it that way. And the story is that this was a wedding dress, and the mother of the bride was picking it up and took a picture of it to show her daughter. Mom takes a picture, sends it to her daughter. Here's your dress. What do you think? And the daughter's like, "What? The dress is the wrong color. I ordered black and blue, and this is white and gold. What's going on here?" And then mom's like, "What are you talking about? I'm right here. The dress is black and blue. What are you saying?" So the daughter posts the picture on Twitter and asks Twitter, "Hey, Twitter, what color is the dress?" And of course, it went super viral, and everybody was arguing about the true color of the dress. Um, so this is an example of when our perceptions can lead us to form false beliefs. So, if I see the dress, a picture of the dress, and form the belief that it's white and gold, well, I'm wrong about the color of the dress itself because the dress actually is black and blue. But I can't be wrong about my own sense impressions of the dress. I am correct in believing that what I see is white and gold, but I am nonetheless incorrect about the actual color of the dress. Um, so if my perceptions are supposed to in some way justify my basic beliefs, well, there's always a danger that some of my beliefs will be incorrect and poorly justified. This is not a problem if you're a modest foundationalist, right? Modest foundationalism allows for cases like this to sometimes happen without, demolishing all of your beliefs, right? But a strong foundationalist would say, no, 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 there's no room for fallible basic beliefs. So what do we think? Well, as I just said, Sophia, I think that modest foundationalist, a modest foundationalist would allow for cases like the dress. They would say, okay, you can still know things, even though there are these kind of cases where things go a bit wonky, and you could potentially perceive the dress as the wrong color. Um, Knowledge is still a possibility. True, well justified beliefs are still a possibility. But this case might make a strong foundationalist say that, well, perceptions can't count as basic beliefs because they can't be infallibly justified. Just to explain for Jeremiah the difference between foundationalism, or explain foundationalism again. Yeah, no problem. Foundationalism is just where you have a set of basic beliefs that are um, that are true and don't need to be justified or are kind of self-justified. And then all of your other beliefs are kind of built upon that foundation. Just like how Rene Descartes doubted everything and then arrived at the cogito, I think, therefore I am. And he thought that it was impossible to be mistaken about this, about that he exists. So that's his basic belief. And he builds up all his other beliefs about the nature of the mind and the body, about the nature of God, etc. He builds all of those back up from that foundation. Yeah, yeah, Jonah. You can see there are like a lot of good videos on YouTube that where people kind of alter the color and show why it seems that we perceive the dress differently. I wonder if I turn my brightness down, um, if the dress will appear different to me. Let's see. How do I do that? I guess I'm not quite sure how to turn. Oh no, there I'm turning it up. Okay, try and turn it down. Huh? No, still white and gold to me. Huh. Curious. I'm really gonna have to I'm gonna have to play around and paint myself. Yeah, no, I mean I'm like that. I cannot see. Well, Shania, that's an evil genius sort of case. Or maybe it's not white and gold nor black and blue. The evil genius is like, haha, these idiots. It's actually green and purple, but I'm deceiving everyone because I'm an evil genius. It's possible. Um, but I mean, even if there is an evil genius deceiving us about the nature of the color of the dress, we can still be certain that we exist, right? That's really interesting. Yeah, I guess Jonah, yeah, the paint is looking at the actual pixel values because paint can't really see anything, right? It can only look at the what the pixels are doing. Yeah. I'll have to yeah, I'll have to try looking at this in different conditions. It's a bit like, something that kind of went viral around a little shortly after this was the Yanny Laurel phenomenon. Does anyone remember Yanny versus Laurel? Yeah. Yeah, so if you Google Yanny and Laurel, um oh, interesting. Yeah, Amy, some people could do that. I would always hear Laurel for that one. But if you don't know Yanny and Laurel, Google it after class and see what you hear. Maybe you hear one, the other, or both, depending on the listening conditions. Interesting. Interesting, Chloe. You heard one, now you hear the other. It's not necessarily with text prompts. I didn't have text prompts and I always hear one thing. Um, what if the dress is truly white and gold? Yeah. What if yeah. Well, that's right. What if it's an evil genius situation? So fun stuff, right? Maybe we're taking the wrong approach. Maybe what we ought to do is actually um, look at the relations between our beliefs rather than trying to identify some set of foundational beliefs. Let's look at the relations between beliefs, and that's the coherentist approach. So that's where we will move on to now. Here we are. Hopefully, we can get through all these slides today. There's not too much more to go. Yeah, it's weird, right, Ben? Like some people can hear both. I would love to know what it's like to perceive the dress as black and blue, although I suppose I would have to just perceive the dress in real life to see it that way. I would love to know what it's like to hear Laurel instead of Yanni, but I don't know. My sensory systems just don't cooperate. Yeah, yeah, Caden, perhaps. That's kind of why I was trying to fiddle with the brightness on my screen to see if that would make a difference, but it remained white and gold even when I turned the brightness all the way down. So, unfortunately, yeah, I'll have to keep at it. All right. Oh, interesting. Yeah, so Philippe just did it. Can hear both. Or can hear Yanni. Yeah. Yeah, well, Raphael, if we're perceiving things, it's similar to the dream argument, right? Like the point of the dream argument is to sort of convince us that the senses don't represent reality the way reality actually is. And the phenomenon of the dress or Yanni and Laurel show us the same thing, right? That the senses don't always represent the world the way it is. Okay, let me pour a little bit more coffee, and then we'll talk about coherence theory. I'll be right back. Okay, now, so as I mentioned on coherence theory, we have our set of beliefs, and they hang together like a spider's web. There isn't some basic belief or some set of basic beliefs from which we build up all our other beliefs and which justify all our other beliefs. Rather, it's a big coherent system. And this view is associated with thinkers like Quine, Keith Lehrer, Donald Davidson, etc. Quine actually called this view holism, and he emphasized the web of belief, the web analogy, quite strongly. But you can also think of it as a jigsaw puzzle, right? One piece of the puzzle doesn't do a whole lot by itself, but all the pieces put together in the right way do a good job of representing the way the world is. So there are some differences between all of these theorists, but the main claims of coherentism are thus. We have a positive claim that justification derives from the coherence of one system of beliefs. All the beliefs mutually support one another. That's the positive claim. So justification comes not, does not come deductively from basic beliefs, but justification comes from the coherence of the entire belief system. The negative claim is that there are no epistemically independent beliefs. So that just means no basic beliefs. So let's try and come up with some beliefs that depend on other beliefs for justification in this sense. And remember when we're doing this that beliefs are representational states. Their job is to represent the nature of the world. And that means everything. That doesn't just mean the planet Earth, right? That means the universe. That means you. And all of what's going on inside you as well. That's what that's what beliefs are meant to represent. Potentially anything and everything. So, what are some examples of beliefs that are justified by other beliefs? Before we were looking at beliefs justified by perceptions, but yeah, night is when it isn't day. Um, yeah, that's a good one, Shania. So for the night and day one, I would say yes. That the that also depends on other beliefs like um, night is when the sun is out, and the sun is out because Earth is rotating on its axis, and the side we're on is facing the sun, et cetera, et cetera. So that belief coheres with other beliefs, right? You see, Shania's is good because, yeah, like if you're going to believe in something like heaven, that might depend on a belief in God. If you don't believe in God, you might not believe in an afterlife, right? Um, yeah, these are good examples, but um, the important thing is like whatever we believe coheres with some other belief. So I'm going to pick on the flat earthers later. So let's just use a belief like the earth is round. So the earth is round. Okay. Um, that's got to cohere with other beliefs. Like, um, did anyone see the lunar eclipse recently? Oh no, we missed it. I could share a picture I took to the Discord server. Oh, it was cool. You guys missed it. Well, basically, yeah, it's kind of neat. I mean, it was just a partial lunar eclipse. I think total lunar eclipses are much neater. Um, I've seen both. Um, but on the partial lunar eclipse, you can see that it has a sort of round shadow, almost like someone's taken a bite out of the moon or something. And so my belief that the Earth is round coheres with beliefs that I might form on the basis of seeing a partial lunar eclipse. And this is indeed one of the ways that the ancient Greeks worked out that the world was round. They reasoned that, well, during a lunar eclipse, the Earth casts its shadow on the moon, and that shadow is round. So, um, I might also have seen ships disappearing over the horizon. You know, when they sail over the horizon and you see the ship slowly disappear. That also coheres with that belief. All of these beliefs kind of cohere with one another in a big web of belief, right? Yeah, the total solar eclipse was mind blowing. It was literally mind blowing. I was not ready for that. I made a point. My partner and I went to Cornwall. We rented a car with a really sweet moonroof, went to Cornwall, down to the St. Lawrence River. Um, and oh man, it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. It was like, well, like literally the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was amazing. It was like being on another planet. Mm. But lunar eclipses are also cool. It's all cool, right? So we can see how these webs of beliefs work, I think. Um, so how do we understand coherence then? There's a couple ways. Explanatory coherence is one. So a belief coheres with another belief because it is explained by another belief or because it explains other beliefs. And I think we generated some examples, right, with the round earth. Like, I believe the earth is round, because I believe that it casts a round shadow during a partial lunar eclipse, and because ships disappear over horizons when they're sailing away, et cetera, right? And the Earth being round explains those other beliefs. Those other beliefs explain um, the shape of the Earth, right? They kind of justify one another. So that's explanatory coherence. But there's also epistemic aim. So coherence is evidential on this approach. Um, if a belief coheres with another belief, that's because it makes the belief more likely to be true. Um, and there is a sort of starting point here. It's not a basic belief, but the starting point is that one has to be interested in believing things that are true. right? Now, coherentists don't want to go in a circle here, right? We don't want something like this, where if belief A supports belief B and B supports C and then C supports A, right? That's a circle. We don't want a circle. Because a circle would be similar to the regress problem that the foundationalists are worried about. So, um, perhaps the web analogy can help us escape the circle. At least that's what those that advocate for coherence theory argue. But as you may have guessed, there are some problems, right? And one of those is the isolation objection. So, C.I. Lewis writes, I think the whole system of such could provide no better assurance of anything in it than that which attaches to the contents of a well-written novel. So, what is he saying? Um, well, a well-written novel might be internally coherent, but it's not connected to the world. It's fiction. It's not real. Um, and the worry is that just like a novel, there is nothing in coherence theory that ties our beliefs to the world. So you could have a system of beliefs that hangs together perfectly fine, but if they're isolated from the world, how would you know that they are false? I mean, think about this, right? Let's think of a novel. What's a good novel? Do we have any readers? Any readers here? I'm not a big reader, but I do read some things, mostly Tolkien. Yeah, The Hobbit. There we go. We got the Hobbit. Yeah, Lord of the Rings. Okay, let's do Lord of the Rings, right? These are all interesting titles. So the Hobbit and the yeah, anything with Stephen King. Well, he writes so many books. It's crazy. Um I mean, take the chat is still going. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So lots of examples, but in all of those examples, I'll use Tolkien stuff because I'm a Tolkien nerd. The everything is coherent, right? The story coheres quite well, right? Bilbo finds the ring in the caves under the Misty Mountains and would eventually leave it for Frodo. Gandalf shows up like, uh-oh, this is the one ring. We're gonna have to do something about this. Better get out of the Shire, and he goes to Rivendell, and the Fellowship is formed, and they go on the quest to destroy the One Ring. Right? That's great, but all of it is fictional. It's not real. um, Even though Tolkien actually, sorry if I'm getting a bit nerdy here, he actually does kind of present the Lord of the Rings as the mythic past of our world. Um, and he does this with The Hobbit too, like how he writes in the beginning that, oh, hobbits are still around, but you don't see them anymore, right? Um, and indeed, the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings are in world written by Bilbo and Frodo, and maybe a little bit of Sam. Um, so he does tie it to the world in a sort of fictionalist sense, but there's nothing in there. It's a fantasy. It's literally fantasy, right? Sam's the real hero. For real, I think Sam is the actual hero. Frodo failed. Frodo claimed the One Ring. I mean, yeah, and how he carries Frodo. That's the best part. Can't carry the ring, but I can carry you. I like, oh, Sam, Sam, go get him, Sam. You know. Anyway, so a more I think hard hitting example would be the flat earthers that I was going to pick on, right? Flat earthers and other conspiracy theorists have coherent sets of beliefs a lot of the time. But those beliefs are not connected to the world. So if you believe the earth is flat, you probably have some conception of how night and day works. You probably have some conception of why the seasons change, but it's not tied to reality. It's not tied to the way things really are, right? And this is a problem with all conspiracy theorists. I don't mean to pick on the flat earthers, although they are easy to pick on. Um, but this is the problem: is with any conspiracy theory, things actually cohere very well in conspiracy theories, but they're not connected to reality. And that's why conspiracy theory isn't just a theory that there is some conspiracy. I mean, there are conspiracies. Conspiracies exist. A conspiracy theory is a sort of epistemically backwards way of looking at the world. Yeah, I've heard about that. That's Terry Pratchett, right? Which I should read. Yeah, exactly, right? And no matter what you say, it gets assimilated into the conspiracy theory. Like, it's like there's I'm arguing with a flat earther and so on. But I just watched on television, they launched another rocket. Um, and they might reply to me, well, do you believe everything the mainstream media tells you? You know, everybody is in on the conspiracy apparently, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. I mean, the United States government could not even keep the Clinton Lewinsky affair secret. How would they keep a fake moon landing secret or a flat earth secret? And why would they want to convince us all that the earth is round when it's actually flat? Why? What's the point? Oh, we got him. I don't like what? Yeah, but control for what? That's I hear this a lot from conspiracy theorists. Like it's about control. Okay, why? To what end? Right? Explain it to me. To what end? Um, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah, conspiracy theories go backwards. They're like backward science. Um, so it's not good. Don't believe in conspiracy theories. Yeah, yeah, Kaya, good, good, good. That's good. Yeah, right, Cormac. Like, haha, we got him. We got all those sheeple to believe the Earth is round. Checkmate, sheeple. So this is the isolation objection essentially. It's the isolation objection that justification, at least on coherence theory, justification is isolated from reality, right? Um, so if justification is really just a matter of beliefs being connected in the right way, that's fine. Um, but whether your beliefs are true depends on how your beliefs are connected with the world, not just how they're connected with one another. And we want justified beliefs to be connected to the truth. That we want them to be connected to the way that reality is, right? Hayden. That's good. A fiat earther. I've never heard that before. Um, silly. Okay, so yeah, we want our justified beliefs to be connected to to reality in the right way. How do we do this? Well, when it comes to perception, both coherentists and foundationalists um, agree that our beliefs are connected in some important way to perception. And this is, in fact, the way we usually learn about the world. We open our eyes and look. We turn our ear towards something and listen. We reach out and touch and feel our way around, right? So we learn about the world quite normally via perception. And foundationalists recall said that well, certain of our basic beliefs, especially on modest foundationalism, certain basic beliefs are going to be perceptual beliefs, right? And that those connections can explain, those between our basic perceptual beliefs and between other beliefs. Um, those all work quite well together. But coherentists say that um, coherence theory does actually account for the role that perceptual beliefs play in our web, right? Um, Beliefs don't just cohere with other beliefs, but beliefs can also cohere with sense impressions. You could also think of it like this. You could think of it in terms of the content of our belief. The contents of our beliefs are provided by these causal connections to the world. So if I believe that there is, a coffee cup on the coffee table, the content of my belief is the coffee cup, and I get that content from this connection with the world, right? Um, Another idea is that we might like to be sensitive to new information so that we could change our beliefs. But either way, you could think of either our sense impressions or the contents of our beliefs as the anchor points of the web. So when a spider makes a web, it has to fix certain strands of the web to certain points that are not in the web. There are many parts of the web connected to other parts of the web, but the web is also attached to something solid. This could be our sense impressions or the contents of our perceptual beliefs. That's the way I like to make sense of this. Yeah, Amy, I would say so. It's a fallibilist theory. We could be mistaken about some of the things that we believe, but um, but that doesn't mean we can't have additional knowledge, right? Now, what is all this talk of evidence and reasons? Are they even the same thing? This is an interesting point in the chapter when we get to talk about the debate concerning the ideas of, oh, excuse me, William K. Clifford on the one hand and William James on the other. So, in an essay called "The Ethics of Belief," written in 1877, William K. Clifford said that it is wrong always, everywhere, and for anyone to believe anything on insufficient evidence. So we have an epistemic duty, according to Clifford, to only believe in things for which there is sufficient evidence. And I mentioned this last time, right? Imagine you're the owner of a ship. This is one of Clifford's examples, in fact. And this ship is in a horrible state, but the owner sends it anyway, believing that it'll be fine. And the ship sinks. Um, well, obviously, we would say that it was morally wrong for the ship owner to have believed that the ship was safe and to have sent it on its way. But Clifford said it would still have been wrong even if nothing had happened to the ship. And interestingly, a real life case of this happened quite recently, right? The Titan submersible. Do you know the case I'm talking about? It's in the news again because of the the recent inquiry into the company OceanGate. We don't know about the Titan submersible. It was the submersible, a little submarine that would go down and look at the Titanic, and it was like a ride that rich people could take. Yeah, the one that imploded last summer. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, the one with the Xbox controller, right? We would all say, well, obviously it was wrong to go down in that submarine. I mean, when I heard, I remember when this story broke and I thought like, oh, that's horrible. I wonder what happened. And I was picturing like a James Cameron, Robert Ballard sort of submersible, like something that looked extremely sturdy. I saw a picture of this thing and I was like, oh, no wonder it imploded. Like the thing, like what? Like I would never have gotten in that thing. That's insane. Yeah, someone is doing it again. Insane. Yeah, and he disagreed with safety. Yeah, yeah. Oof. Yeah, and then when I heard how deep they were, I know this is very morbid, but when I heard how deep they were when they lost contact, well, there were a lot of news stories like, okay, we're looking for survivors, and it's like, no, they're you don't survive that, right? You don't survive that. Yeah, crushed like a can at supersonic speeds. So at least you'd be dead before you had time, before your nervous system could process any pain or anything. Now we'd all agree. Um, yeah, yeah, I know. Like, oh, what a tragedy. Like this kid didn't even want to go, and he went. He went because his father wanted him to. Um, oh, yeah. Oh, it just sucks. So we all, I mean, obviously we would all say, hey, they never should have sent that sub because look what happened. It imploded. Clifford would say every other time that submarine made a voyage down there was also wrong because even though subsequent to the implosion, the other passengers always eventually made it back safely. That submarine was not safe. It was just not safe for those depths. I'd take a submarine like that around like a coral reef or something relatively shallow, but going to the bottom of the ocean, you're dead. Like, oh my goodness, no, no way would I get in that thing. Freaking death trap. So, that kind of hammers home Clifford's point. Like, even if the sub had not imploded, it was wrong to go there, to believe that the sub would have been fine because it was not designed. It was not well designed. So, William James, however, takes a different approach. Yeah, well, that's the thing, Abdul Rahman. Um, there were incidents where the sub was operating and other things were going wrong with it. So there were problems with the tail piece. There were problems with the front, like the dome, the viewing dome. Um, and the sub had to be kind of taken out of service and repaired numerous times. So the signs were there. Um, I think what we have here is a case of some billionaire, thinking he knows better because he's a billionaire, right? I mean, he's successful. And maybe the reasoning goes, well, I wouldn't be a billionaire if I wasn't so successful, and I wouldn't be so successful if I wasn't so smart. So clearly I'm smart enough to know that it'll be fine. No, unfortunately. So I think something like that was at play. I mean, in psychology, there's this notion of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where the um, the more knowledgeable you are, the more aware you are of the limits of your own knowledge, and the less knowledgeable you are, you tend to overestimate your own expertise and competence. And something like that could have been at play here as well. Who knows? In any case, William James argued against Clifford. He argued that you could sometimes believe without evidence on pragmatic grounds. What does he mean by this? Well, oh, what's that a picture of, Kaya? Do I want to click? Let's see. A meme. Okay, hopefully it's safe for work. Oh, it's a Dunning-Kruger meme. Yes, I can't see it. Oh no. Yes. Yes. That's good. I would say that's yeah, that about sums it up. Um okay, so it's okay to believe without evidence on pragmatic grounds. What does that mean? Well, pragmatic here means practical. So, if having a belief has good psychological consequences for you, then William James would say go ahead and believe in it, even if there's no evidence. And James isn't talking about like the ship or the submarine. He's not talking about cases like that. He's talking more about like cases of religious belief, like where, you know, where you're supposed to kind of go on faith and not evidence. And James is kind of constructing an argument that says, like, yeah, it's okay. Like, don't worry about it. If there's no proof of God's existence, well, don't worry about it because you're supposed to kind of take it on faith anyway, and it has good psychological consequences, so it's fine, right? And justification here might be a matter of these beliefs making a meaningful and positive difference in your existence, right? Now, Clifford is going to disagree with this, right? Clifford is going to take an evidentialist approach. Um, Justification is should not depend on what is practically good. Um, it should depend on the evidence available to you. Hume also agrees with this position. He says a wise man proportions his belief to the evidence. Um, Now, coherence theory and foundationalism, just to return to those for a moment, are both compatible with evidentialism. They both agree that we need to have evidence for our beliefs. What they disagree about is the basis of justification, right? Recall, foundationalism says that justification kind of stems from or flows from our basic beliefs, and coherence theorists say that justification depends upon the connections between all of the beliefs in our system of beliefs. Now, Feldman and Coney say that a belief is justified as long as we satisfy the following two conditions. We need evidence for our beliefs, evidence for the beliefs that we hold, and we have to believe on the basis of that evidence. So, does evidence just mean good reasons? I don't know. We'll leave that question and go on. I really would like to finish this, but we only have 10 more minutes. I'm not sure if we'll make it. I guess one way to understand evidence is that evidence is whatever increases our justification in a true belief. So, whatever gives us more good reasons to hold that belief. Right? I might believe that the earth is round because I read it in a science textbook when I was a little kid. Um, so, expert testimony. But then I might go out and watch a partial lunar eclipse and see that the shadow of the Earth cast on the moon is in fact round. And so that increases my justification in my belief that the Earth is round, right? Evidence might also just be whatever tells us something about whether the belief we're holding is true or false. So, and that could include quite a lot of things, other beliefs, um, sensory impressions, um, memories, etc. And on this broader view, evidence is something a believer has, right? Like I have evidence. I kind of collect evidence in the form of sensory experiences, other beliefs, knowledge, memories, etc. I kind of collect all of that up and keep it as reasons for holding the beliefs that I do. Think back to skepticism. Remember global skepticism that says um, we can't know anything? None of our beliefs count as knowledge. We might have plenty of true beliefs, but none of those true beliefs count as knowledge because we don't have the justification we need. Well, the evidentialists would say that, under normal conditions, right, all things being equal, and using a common sense notion of evidence, um, we can take our reasons that we have for believing in the beliefs that we hold as sufficient justification, even if we can't defeat all the skeptical arguments that we might come across, right? An evidentialist would say, like, things are good enough. Maybe I can't conclusively prove, for example, that we're not, I don't know, living in a simulation, but whatever. I mean, the evidence is good enough. The evidence that I'm not is good enough, right? So I'll just believe that I don't live in a simulation. Evidence is, yeah, like you say, evidence is what strengthens beliefs, Amy. Like if we have a true belief, the evidence is what justifies it. And if we get more evidence, our justification should become stronger, or we could say that it is increased. We're more justified in believing, yeah, like Chloe says here, yeah, is evidence justification? It is. Evidence or good reasons are what justify our holding of a true belief, right? So we can say that if we're taking an evidentialist view, our justification is not going to be perfect. Our evidence is never going to be perfect, but it is going to be good enough. Now, a skeptic is not going to be satisfied with this, um, but whatever, it's good enough. I mean, I think I'm probably something of an evidentialist. Like I said, I can't prove that I'm not living in a simulation, but at the same time, my reasons for believing that I'm not are good enough for me to believe that I live in the real world and not a simulation. Just for example. Okay, so James, go back to William James real quick. I think this is the last slide, or it's not actually. Okay, well, why don't we end it here? Because I don't really want to rush through all of this because this is something that might appear on a future quiz. Um, so I don't want to rush through it. So we'll finish this off next week. Um, we'll use our last few minutes to discuss whether there are any questions about today's material. Oh, good question, actually, Mahmoud. No, the final exam will be online, and it'll be like a big quiz where it'll be open book. You'll have access to your course materials. Um, you'll have the exam period, the whole exam period where you can decide when to write it. But once you begin, there'll be a time limit, probably like something like 3 hours, right? I'll give you a big time limit. Yeah, don't be nervous for the quiz, no, I mean. Yeah, it's not too insane. It's not too crazy. Synchronous, Kaya, do you mean like cumulative? The exam will be cumulative. It'll cover everything. Whereas the quizzes only cover what we cover up to that quiz. Well, what the first quiz is open now, and you've got to complete it by tomorrow at 11:59. Oh, okay. You already did. So the next one, I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but it's in the course outline. Yeah, so the final exam, you'll have the whole of the exam period to decide when to start the quiz. So I think that's from like a few days after the end of class till December 21st or 22nd, something like that. So you have like a 2 week window to decide when to start. And then once you begin, there's a time limit. So it's just like the quizzes, except bigger. Oh, I've got the sniffles today. I hope I'm not getting sick. Oh, thanks, Cormac. Yeah, so that answers Jeremiah's question, October 18th. Now, mind you, that's when it'll be due. You could start it before then, during that week. Um, but as long as you get it done by 11:59 p.m. on October 18th, you're good. Yeah, everyone. Yeah, late season allergies, I do succumb to those. And my partner was saying that she doesn't feel too good. She's been working at the down at Arts Court with there's lots of people and people get colds, and I hope we don't get colds. So yeah, and COVID's making the rounds again. I got to go get my updated booster. Yeah, that's right, Kaya. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm gonna go get my booster at some point. Gonna go get the old flu shot. Because I've had COVID twice. The first time I had it, sorry if this is too much information, but the first time I had it, I was as sick as I've ever been. I was like bedridden for like 2 weeks. It was crazy. Second time I had it, I had my vaccine and also my antibodies from the first infection, and it wasn't nearly as bad. Um, so, you know, I'm gonna go get that booster. But let's end it there. Um, So I hope those of you who are feeling under the weather feel better. I know that when you're ill, um, classes, etc., are a pain in the butt when you're feeling sick, as is work. And um, some of you might be doing school and work, right? So I guess what I'm saying is take care of yourselves, take care of your physical health and your mental health. All right. Unless there are any other questions, I think we'll leave it there, and I'll see you all uh later. Oh, Philippe, you see me on campus? That's probably because after this I go up to campus and I teach a class in Taranga Commons. Maybe you're seeing me. You must be seeing me around there, perhaps. If you see me, say hi. You can introduce yourself in person. But thanks, everybody. I don't teach this class in person. Um, I'm teaching a first year seminar in person, so it's much smaller. There's only 30 students. Um, this class is much bigger. Not everybody shows up for the live lecture, but I think we got a lot of students. Must be over 200, and a few watch here, and then a few watch on YouTube. So, anywho, thanks everybody. I hope you have a good weekend. And I'll see you all next Tuesday. Take care, everyone, and bye for now.